So this is, of course, the exhaust valve. Now, whilst I was installing the high compression piston, I mucked up the timing and bent this valve, and so I had to replace it. And of course, I reset the valve clearances. It's now been just over 1,000 kilometers since I put this new piston in, and I've been suspected hearing a little bit of valve chatter. And I expect it's most likely coming from the exhaust because that's the one that was changed. I've got an entire video on how to do this process, which if I remember, I'll link up the top. But I thought I'd capture the moment on video of checking the valves to see if they've actually gone out of spec. Okay, let's just confirm that's, yeah, that's definitely top dead center. That actually feels a bit tight, which is what I wanted. I wanted to see if it was tight, but let's see how tight. So that was at 0.2 millimeters or 0.008 of an inch. All right, let's go 0.15 and see if that fits. 0.15 doesn't fit. All right, we need to go down. Okay, let's go to one of the thinner ones, 0.5, 0.05 of a mil. Okay, that's good. It hasn't tightened down completely. This is 0.13 of a millimeter, which, oh, even that's a bit tight. Where's 0.1? I was just looking at it, I swear. There it is. Yeah, you know what? That's right on the money. So that has tightened down quite a bit. That's roughly half of what it should be. So I'm going to reset that now to 0.2, which is what the book says. So this should be a 9 mil at top. 9 mil it is. It is a little bit fiddly to get in here, which can make it difficult, but that's where a pair of these pliers can help. It doesn't take much of an adjustment. So we've got the 0.2 millimeter here. Okay, that's not quite in, is it? Oops, I just turned it too far the wrong way. You might find that you can actually get in there and turn it by hand if you can get in past all the bike that gets in the way. Okay, that's pretty much bang on. That's a bit loose. We can probably get away with tightening that up. Let's try half a turn. All right, 0.2. That's pretty good. That's biting. I wouldn't hate it if that was a little bit tighter. I'm going to try and get back in here with the pliers because I don't quite have the grip I need. Yep, that is now too tight. It is such a fine adjustment. Let's get in here with the pliers and turn it about there. It's almost back to where it was. That's right on the money. So 0.2 of a mil. Now the trick here is getting this locking nut tightened again without twisting the actual adjuster. So it is possible, just do it slowly and watch the very top of the adjuster. You want to see where the corners are and watch those corners don't move. Test it again. Now that is a little bit on the tight side, but otherwise I would call that perfect. I had asked previously whether or not anyone had tried tightening these down, and that I measured that clearance as being exactly half of what it is now, and I was hearing that valve chatter. So that does track that it does need to be back into spec, and rather than try and mess with them, I had thought it's going to go either way. It's going to be too loose or too tight. So it's probably a good thing that I've got in there and checked it today. Now, the intake side is a different story. Now the intake side should be 0.08 of a millimetre. And that is, it's always a little bit trickier to measure with the thinner gauges. So let's just get in there. So you can tell it's spot on because it will be a little bit difficult to get in and you can feel it gripping. So let's go one bigger. So we're on, what are we on here? 0.08. All right, let's see if we can get the 1 millimetre one in. Because if I can, it might be time to adjust the intake. You know what? I can get the 1 mil in. So maybe my valve chatter was coming from the intake side. So it's probably still within spec, 0.13, which I cannot get in. So it is within spec, but we're going to adjust it back down to 0.8. The thing about checking and adjusting the valves, it's not a difficult job. It is merely time consuming. Getting in there with the wrench can be difficult. Probably the exhaust is easier to do than the intake side. Now, I know that my hand is blocking the entire camera here, but I need to see better than you do. Doesn't matter how small of an adjustment you make, you've always just got to do one and check, because it does not take much at all to rotate these. I feel like maybe I'll just have a little bit more access to the bolt. Okay, that is now a smidgen too tight. This is a little bit frustrating because it's easier to adjust from the other side, but it's easier to get the feeler gauge in here from this side. You know what, that's a little bit on the tight side, but that's okay. All right, that feels spot on, but I'm not happy with how tight that nut is yet. Okay, now, it's one thing to leave the feeler gauge in there while you tighten it, but you've also got to make sure when you take it out, you can put it back in again, because all that you might be doing is pushing the valve down with the feeler gauge in there. So we've got 0.8 on the intake. No, we've got 0.08 on the intake and 0.2 on exhaust. So valves have been adjusted after 1,000 kilometers. My instincts were on point. They were both a little bit out. Well, there's nothing else much to see here except I have to put the covers back on and then kick the bike over, by which I mean start it up, let it warm up, and that should be all I need to do. I think it's safe to say from that little demonstration that the bike's definitely not running lean anymore. And in my opinion, that's probably a good thing. It's idling fine. Good news is my newly replaced indicator globe hasn't blown yet. This bike definitely does sound different. Alright, I'll stop pissing off the neighbours now.